Hi guys, welcome back. I hope you all had a nice time. Yes, so today's class we'll continue with our class, and I'd like everyone to participate fully in what we are doing. So for everybody that have been supporting us so far, please we appreciate, and for those who just join our channel, for those of you who just subscribe, we appreciate also. Today's class we're going to go in depth and look at um, more things we can actually do with values, and then we're going to explore various things we can implement while working on values. So we are going to do something different today, and I'll go ahead and share my screen so that we can continue with our class. So if you are just joining us for the first time, please subscribe to our channel. Then I noticed that a lot of people who has watched past videos did not subscribe. So if you have not subscribed to our channel, please try to subscribe so that we can reach out to you more, and then you'll be able to get a notification once we are live. All right. So all right. One more time, welcome guys to this Python class. In this class, we're going to be moving to class 2 of our Python course. So I'll go ahead and create a file, and then I'll call that um, class 2. Class 2.py. Yeah. Once again, the py there means Python is a way that we compile Python code to actually help us run our code. Then if you have not actually installed if you've not installed Python extension, please go to the extension option here. Then just type in Python here, and then it will bring up Python option. Then you can use this first one. So you click on it, then you click on the install button here. So once you have done that, your Python will automatically be installed. All right. So let's go on. Let's go to today's work. Now, in yesterday's class, we actually look at how we can create different kind of variables, and then how we can store those variables inside our values. Now, I would actually explain what a variable is. I've actually said that yesterday in our previous class. Uh, a variable is more like your container in the memory that holds whatever item you assign to it. So if I want to type in one into my computer or into my code here, the values that I'm putting there will be stored somewhere, and then um, we'll be able to use that as a name to identify whatever value I'm inputting. So look at it more like when your code is about to run. So for your code to run, your system will need to identify what value you actually input. And since your system does not understand characters, it only understand binary. So it's going to assign a particular um, binary text or binary code to that value you are imputing. And then it will be able to hold that. And then you can now use that to carry out tasks. So and Python, for example, run from the top button to the next line, to the next line, to the next line. So it's going to see the first one, save it in the memory. Then it goes to the next line, save the next value in the memory, go to the third line, save it to the memory. Then whatever option you want to now do from then, it will help you do that. So in today's class we're going to be looking at string manipulation. We're going to be looking at string manipulation. Now, when we talk about string manipulation, what do we mean? Now, for you to be able to insert string into a particular variable, and then you want to also use that variable in different ways, you can use this string manipulation to get exactly what you want. Let's take, for example, I have a string which is called name, and then I assign a string value. So I have a variable called name, then I have a string value called Alice or Alice. Now, what are the things I can actually do with Alice? I can actually break Alice into various particles. Like I want my A to stand separately, my L to stand separately, and my I to stand separately. One of those things I can actually do is to say um, X, comma, Y, comma, Z, comma, B or W. At least that's five letters. So I have one, two, three, four. Okay, V, and then I'm going to store it as name. Now, what I've done here actually is to assign the old values and then I assign them to the name here. So Alice is inside here, or Alice and name are now equal. Now, in this case, I'm bringing in Alice to be at this other part here. So, since name equals to Alice, it means that name is also Alice in this particular line of code. And then what will now happen in this case here is that each of these texts will be broken into five places. The first one, which is A, will be assigned to X. The second one, which is X, will be assigned to Y. The third one will be assigned to Z, then W, and so on and so on. So in this case, we've actually picked our value that is stored in the name variable. We've broken them down into five places, and then we assign them to different letters. Now, just to point out if this is real, I can actually try to print out the first one, which is X here, and then I'll run this code here. Now, in this case here, you will see that I have A here. My code ran here, and then it's showing me A here. Okay, which is telling me that my X is actually a capital letter A. Okay, all right. Now you can also see other ones. If I also print out Y and then I run this also, you see I have A and L because my X is now equals to A and my Y is now equals to L. Yes, so if you have any question regarding this, please drop it on the comment section. I'm going to answer that. I'll look at it and I'll answer your question. All right. So now, what are some of the rules that govern you breaking of values into different pieces? Now, one of the rules is that the number of variables you have here should be equal to the number of values I have here. The number of variables I have here should be equal to the number of values I have here. This is the only way this will work. If I were to have just four variables here and then this is five, this would show me an error telling me that the amount of values I assign is lesser than what I'm expecting. So you see value error here, which says too many value to unpack. All right. So I believe you understand that. So I'll just put in the last one here so that we will not encounter that error. So one of the rules is that, let me put it here, to unpack a value, comma, the variable has to be the same amount as the value. That means if we have five items here, if we have five items here, then our variable should be 5. Now, there are also exceptions to that. Now, the exception is that if we decide that we want to have a lesser amount of variable here and then more values here, then we have to indicate it. Now, how do we indicate it here? So I'm going to say x, comma, y, comma, z. Now, I now have two values, then I can now use dollar sign $v, which will be equals to the name. Now, in this case now, what would happen here is that the v value now taking more items is taking in the remaining one. So our x will take in a, our y will take in l, our z will take in I, then our v will take in c and e. So if you look at here now, if I print out v in this case here, if I print out if I print out v here, you now see I have a list of C and E. Yes. So you can see that it's possible we can actually now have lesser amounts of values here. Now, let's say I come here and then I remove the Z here. This will still work because I have this white card which is taking in more values than expected. So the only exception to that is you use white card to capture the remaining one. So if you do not capture, if you don't want to capture the remaining items, or if you do not want the remaining every item to display, you can actually just pick two, and then you can use the white card to capture the remaining one and use it somewhere else. Now, this is very useful for developers if you are going to be bringing in code from the database and then you decide to work on those code. The number of items that might be coming could be different from the number of values that might be coming to from your database might be different from the number of variables you have here. So you being able to actually store your data here is very, very important. Or you understanding this is very, very important. So I'll go ahead and continue with the next one. So this is one way you can actually manipulate your strings. Now there are other cases also. I could have x here and y here. And then in this case here, I can now have Alice, comma. I can also have um, John. Now you will notice these are also string here. In this case here, this will also still work. X will be assigned to Alice and Y will be assigned to John. Yes. And if you decide to remove this, let's try that and see. Let's be sure. So I'm going to print X in this place here. See? Yes. So you will see here that X actually is assigned to Alice and your Y is assigned to John. Now, what if I remove this and I only have, okay, I'll just leave this here. So what if I have my X and then my X is actually equals to um, Williams, and then I have this also Mary. Now the question is, will this actually work? Because we now have more items, more variable. We now have it here, and then we want to assign it to a single. We now have more values rather, and then we want to assign it to a single variable. Will this work? Yes, this will work, but in this case here, your data has automatically become a tuple. So how do I see that? If I print out my X here, I assume I print out my X here, you see I now have a tuple here. Remember what I said, tuple are actually values that you cannot meet. They are actually immutable list of tests. Yeah, so if you have a question so far, please let me know so that we can continue from here. All right, so let us continue from where we stop. Now, this is actually us working, trying to manipulate our string value to see how it works. This is us actually manipulating our string value to see how it works. You could also manipulate other items. And the question is, can we actually manipulate integers? Can we break integers just like we break integers here? Well, if the integer is standing alone, it will be impossible to break. Let's assume we have age to be, yeah, let's talk about integer integer manipulation. So let's assume that we have a text like age. Then our age equals to 21. Now the question is, can we actually break this into two? Well, the literal answer is actually no. This cannot be broken because um, this is an integer. Then also floats. Can we actually break floats into different parts? No, that is not possible. But if we have two integers here and then we print age here, this we can still get a tuple. So we can still get a tuple if we do that. And another question is, what if we have our y x to be equals to 21 and 23? Can we print out y? Can we print out y and still get a value? Question is, yes, we can print out y and still get a value. So now if you look at this, we can actually still manipulate our integers, but these now come with restrictions. The same thing goes to floats. Yeah, it is difficult to manipulate. You can't manipulate, you can't break your integers and you cannot break your floats into different parts. And the next question is, let's talk about, yeah, so like I said, you can actually break strings into different parts, but your integers cannot be broken and your float can also not be broken. Now another question is, can we actually have our boolean value broken? No, you can't. You can't do that. So I'm just going to move down to lists. Let's talk about list manipulation. Here, so if we have a list of items, let's say we have names, which we have Alice here. Seems I've gotten fond of Alice. Then we have John here. Then we have Williams here. Now my question is now that, how do we actually break this into two? Can we actually do the same thing that we have done to our integer? Can we break them into three places? Yes, we can do that. So if I say y equals to comma z equals to our list, which is the names. Now if I print out x here, will I get will I get um will I get Alice? Yes, let's see that. Yes, you see here that we can get Alice once we print out the name. Yes. So at this point, I want to know, um, are those with us now, please, if you are here, you have a question, please indicate. Then I also need your reaction. I need your reaction. I need your reaction. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. All right, so let's continue with that. Let's continue. Let's go on. Okay, so you see here we've been able to break our list into different parts. Yeah. Now the another question we ask is that can we say x comma dollar asterisk y equals to names? And then if we print out our y, are we going to get these two values, John and Williams? Yes, we can get that because they are both stored inside the items here. So if you decide that you want to actually break a list into different parts, yes, this is possible. Now, this is important because of um, when it comes to data manipulation or AI. These are some of those things you need to understand for you to be able to work with data when you are doing maybe an analysis or you are working with your um, your AI data or how data is handled on AI. So this is a very good way you can actually manipulate your list. So you see we actually break our list into three parts. Then we can also capture some parts of our list and then we can make use of them. Now the next thing is dictionary. Let's talk about dictionary. Dollar sign dictionary. Dictionary manipulation. Dictionary manipulation. So let's assume I have record or student record. Let's assume I have student record, and in the student record, I have this my dictionary of items, which have name. The name is John. Then we have age. And age is 23. Then we have email. The email is John at gmail.com. John at gmail.com. Now, having this, can we also still break this into different parts? The dictionary have a way of handling their own data, but the question is, can we still break this into three parts? Students record. Yes. Let's print our X here. So if we print our X here, this is showing us name, which is a good evidence that our data cannot be broken into various parts. Yeah, so yeah. Now when we do this, what we are actually getting is this value here and not this. Now if we go ahead and also still pick this, let's assume we pick this also, which is y, and I run this, it's going to pick our age here. So this will not bring out your item, it will only pick the keys here. Yes, so when you are working with this data, these are different ways you can actually handle your data. Now, we're going to go further and still see what you can do with this later on in the class. For now, let's just go for 1 or 2 minutes break, and then we'll come back and continue the class. Please. All right, welcome back, guys. So let's continue with well, let's continue. All right. So we've looked at our dictionary. Now remember, we also have list. Then we have tuple. So if you need this file, please drop a message in the chat. I'm going to send this to you so you can, if you want to continue learning with this, you can do that also. All right. So let's continue. Let's continue. So okay. All right. So this is just one different ways you can actually manipulate your values that you are inserting. So we've actually manipulated our values, and uh, we manipulated them in different ways. Now, if you want to, um, if you want to manipulate your string, so you can use this to manipulate your strings. Yeah, you can manipulate your lists, your dictionary also. Now, I want you to take note of this. It's very important. We are going to be using this later on in the class to work on different data. All right. So, we've actually looked at different ways we can actually manipulate or different values that we can manipulate. And what we did there was try to slice those values together. So we started by slicing our list into different parts. We tried to do that for um, integers, which didn't work. Then we also did it for lists, which work of course. Then we did it for dictionary, which only pick out the keys in the dictionary. So we can also improve on that. We can use other methods to actually manipulate our values. Now, in this case here, whenever you create or whenever you insert a value into Python code, whatever value you are inserting belongs to a group of values or a group of text. So they could belong to a group of lists. So if I insert any value now, the value could possibly be list value or string value rather. So it could be string value in this case here. So if what I'm inputting is a string value, it usually come with the characteristics of a string value or behaviors of a string value. Then if I input an integer just like this here, this usually come with an integer's attributes. So whatever data I'm inputting or whatever value I'm inputting, they usually have their own characteristics. So if the data is a string like this here, it means that this data has some characteristics or attributes of a string. Then if I input an integer just like this here, this is an integer. This come with the characteristics of an integer. If I put in a list here, that list comes with the characteristics of a list. Then if I come in and put in dictionary, the dictionary also come with the attributes of dictionary. Now you'll be wondering that what do I mean by an attribute or behavior? Now let's try to see the behavior or attributes of a string. So I'll say attributes of a string. Now, what are the attributes of a string? Let's assume I say my name is Alice as usual. Now, how can I get the attributes of that string Alice? To get that attribute, I can say my name dot. Now, once I put in these dots here, this will list out some of the attributes of a string. So all this is you are seeing here: title, strips, swap case, R jaws, lower, L string, make trans, space, is decimal, find. They are all attributes of a string. Now that is actually different from the attribute of an integer. So if I have age to be equals to 23, and then I want to find the age, sorry, the attribute of that integer 23. So I'll just type in the age, then I'll put in full stop. You will see that what I have here is actually different from what we have in the previous class, which is a string. So this is one way we can actually also use to manipulate our data. Now, assuming I want to convert my data to uppercase, I can pick on y. Then I want my y to be the variable. Then I'll pick on name. Then I want to find the dot upper. Now, once I put in this here, I'm actually picking up the attributes of my string, which is the uppercase. So if I print this out, you will see here that I got Alice, which is the capital letter in this case here. So the uppercase attributes will give me, will convert my value which I inserted into uppercase. Then I can also have, yeah, I can also have other names too. I can also have John, assuming our John is in uppercase, is in all uppercase, and I want to convert them to lowercase. I'm going to store the data I'm getting inside my value x. Sorry, this is capital letter. Let's make this small letter. Dot lower. What this lower function will do is to convert John into small letter, then to store it inside this text here. So if I say print x here, then I run this code here, you will see over here that my character is now in lower case. So if you have a value here, you can actually reduce them into uppercase as you want. Yeah, I hope you understand. So please, if you have a question, please let me know on the comment section. I'll go through it, then we'll tackle that. All right. Now, so far, this is our item here. So we have lower, we have upper too. All right. So you can convert to lowercase, then you can convert to uppercase. Like we see. Now, not just that, we can also do other things here. Let's assume we have something called an email. And then in the email, we have Alice John at gmail.com. Now, we can also use the attribute to verify a lot of things here. I can check if we have a value that has at gmail.com or that ends with at gmail.com. In this case, we can say equals to email dot ends with Now in this case, we want to check and see if that value actually have actually have actually end with at gmail.com. Now this value will actually return true, which in this case it has at gmail.com. So if you can actually use this to check and see if we have that character inside our value here. Yeah, so you can try it out on your system and check how this works. All right. So I'm going to give us time to take our time and look at this. I actually don't want this class to be a very long class. So you can put in there, then we will continue our class tomorrow. Yep. So thank you very much for joining our YouTube channel if you are new. Then if you are watching this and you have not subscribed, please try to subscribe. This will help us improve our performance and help us in a long way. So thank you very much. Appreciate your commitment. Bye for now.